Okay. So can you all see the screen?
No. Yes. Yes, Protim, we can see now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm Protim Bhattacharjee. I'm a doctoral student at the German Aerospace Center here in Berlin, and I'm also affiliated to the Friedrich Alexander University in Erlangen. So why I have two affiliations will be clear as we go through the slides, and I'll try to give you a glimpse of higher education in Germany and how to apply and how the system works. And I'll talk a little bit about how life is here in Germany. So before we go into that, a bit about myself. I graduated from IIIT-Delhi in 2016. So I did my MTech EC, the specialization in communication and signal processing. And my advisor was Dr. Majumdar. And before that, I was in University of Delhi doing my master's and bachelor's of electronics. So that was a little bit about me. Why Germany? So most of you would be aware that Germany is one of the countries with the largest investments in research and development. Here are a few stats, but I would like to focus on the most important part of the German economy, which is the industry and academia collaboration. So here, the industry funds the research for academia, and academia does the research and forwards it to the industry, and the industry develops it further for products, for technologies, and this complementary cycle keeps going, which forms a large part of the German economy, and also why they are one of the largest manufacturing hubs and why one of the largest technological places. So an example, so let's talk about AI. So Germany plans to invest about 3 billion euros by 2025. This is only for Germany. And for this initiative, Germany has set up a lot of AI centers. Amongst them, the two biggest ones are the Cyber Valley in Tübingen and the Haiku Center, which is an association of various Helmholtz units. So the Cyber Valley is a consortium of industries and universities. So it includes Max Planck Institutes, University of Tübingen, Stuttgart, and companies like Amazon, Bosch, Daimler, BMW. The main idea behind this is to have a multidisciplinary approach to AI and to develop technologies for products and improve AI research in its basic form. So essentially, it leads to a very rich environment for startups. And you can see I've added a few startups which have come out of Cyber Valley. And similar is with Haiku, even though Haiku is a bit different in its approach. It works on developing generalized AI systems for industry-specific applications. And one of the core strengths of Helmholtz is it has a huge amount of high-performance computing servers and data centers, which are used by all universities and industries in Germany and also in Europe. So, and this is not only true for AI. This was one example because it's the most popular one, I guess, right now. Apart from that, there are other collaborations like the Jülich-Aachen Research Alliance, which is between the Forschungs Research Center Jülich and the RWTH Aachen, which are the largest university and the largest research center in Germany. And they collaborate a lot. So they do their research in Jülich, and they have all the departments and academic procedures in Aachen. Similarly is the Medical Valley in Erlangen, where it's only focused on medical technology, medical health startups, and everything to do with medicine and well-being. Similarly, for microelectronics, there is Silicon Saxony in Dresden, So Dresden is a hub for communications, microelectronics, and everything to do with hardcore electrical engineering. Apart from this, the government by itself also has some small clusters of excellence, and they are small university departments or research institutes forming a small group, and the government provides funding for the specific research directions, and the funding is of about the order of 500 million euros per year. So the best example is possibly the Hausdorff Center for Mathematics. It's very popular and attracts a lot of people all over the world. So you can check out these centers here. I've also added the links to the specific institutes and industries. Now, why? Now, okay, while this is true, but how do we reach there? So I'll discuss the MS procedure and the doctoral procedure. The process is go to this DAAD website. So DAAD is the German Academic Exchange Platform. And you go to the website, which I've provided here, and you choose your course which you want to pursue. So these are the international programs which and the universities host their application portals on this particular website. And you can also use Uni Assist, basically University Assistant portal, and this will help you to acquire all your documents and make sure that everything is okay. So, this is the basic. This is the basic and the only way in which you apply to Germany. So you have to apply through the university portal. So there is no other application procedure. And if you have any kinds of doubt, you should directly contact the dean's office or the concerned persons whose name is mentioned in the website. It is their duty and job to inform you, and they will have the exact and updated information. So do not be afraid of contacting the dean's office. They are the people with the exact information, and in case of any doubts, you should always do that. So for you essentially need a master's in English, German, or half English, half German. But I guess so. If you're doing it in English, you need an English proficiency test. Majorly IELTS, and some universities might also agree to a TOEFL, but these are just for like a qualification. So it's not like you need 120 out of 120 on TOEFL or something. You just need to show that you can read, write, and understand English. And generally, German is not required if you're doing your studies in English, but it could vary from university to university and from city to city. So all this information will be available at the DAAD website. So you need to read it very carefully and accordingly follow the instructions and apply for your master's. So the next important question always is fees. So there is no tuition fee for doing masters in public universities in Germany, except for the state of Baden-Württemberg, where they have started charging fees from, I guess, 2017. So that includes University of Stuttgart, Heidelberg, Tübingen, so all the southwest of Germany. And the fees is about 150 euros per semester, so about 1.3 lakh per semester. And apart from this tuition fee, which is only applicable for universities in Baden-Württemberg, you have a semester fee which includes all student services like mess utilities and a public transport semester pass. So here, public transportation is very good, so you really do not need anything else. You have buses, trams, metro, underground, everything, and very good connectivity. You require a semester fee of about 100 to 200 euro, depending again upon the university and the city. So that's about 9,000 to 18,000 rupees per month, per semester, sorry. And for living expenses, so you have to show a blocked account. That means an account where you deposit some amount of money and which you can only operate once you are in Germany. So you need to show 10,236 euros. which is about 9 lakh rupees. And this is only for your living expenses. So you have to show that you can support yourself here in Germany. The education ministry has come up with this value of 853 euros per month, which you need to show that you can afford. And so mostly this is an amount which is you can manage with this very easily, because you can substitute your income with part-time jobs and with internships, trainings, and most.
एक पॉइंट सुनने दे बस.
most
अबे ये जर्मनी में कुछ एरो साइंस वगैरह है.
So I guess someone needs to tell him that his mic is on. And so sometimes the university also has specific scholarships, so you can always ask them if there are any available. And I would ask you to read through these DADA links, because they provide all the other information that you may need. And a few other points, like there is no concept of private universities. Like 99.9% of universities in Germany are all public. They are funded by the government. And coming from IIIT-Delhi, you do not need private universities. Firstly, they are not worth the quality of education, and secondly, they are very expensive. So, in terms of quality of education, it does not really depend upon the university you have chosen. Like the quality of masters is more or less stable across the entire country. So the only difference is the amount of funding you have for research and to go for conferences or something like that. And my suggestion would be, if you come to Germany for your masters, you should take seriously your internships and trainings, and you should do it in a field where you want to build a career, because such practical knowledge is very important, and people value these kind of practical knowledge. So it's not only your theoretical knowledge, but you also need to be very application oriented here. And so there are no plain cells per se, so you have to directly apply to companies and institute, and mostly it happens that when you do your master thesis, you generally land up getting a job there. And you get unemployment benefits and job search visas for 6 months from the university itself, and there are no dearth of jobs, so there are enough jobs for highly skilled labor here in Germany. So that shouldn't be a problem. So small lookout for the universities. So there are the TU9s, which are recognized by the German government for their excellent technical education. So there are the RWTH Aachen, TU Munich, Berlin, Dresden, Braunschweig, Darmstadt, University of Stuttgart, the University of Hanover, and the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. So I would suggest, if you find something in one of these 9 universities, you should try for it. Apart from these 9, there are other universities which have specializations, like they're specific in one domain. So like for other technical universities, you have University of Erlangen, which is one of the universities which the German government recognizes for their engineering faculty specifically. Then you have TU Dortmund for control systems and electrical engineering. Now, computer science, so there's nothing called a computer engineering in Germany. Everything is computer science. So either it's computer science or it's electrical engineering. So there's no computer engineering per se. So computer science is grouped with the natural sciences and mathematics. So you have LMU Munich, University of Bonn, Heidelberg, and so this is not an exhaustive list. So there are way more universities than these public universities, and you should check out the one which feels comfortable and which seems to be aligned with your master aspirations. So for medicine, you have Charité. It is the largest medicine university in Europe. For design, you have Bauhaus. And there are University of Applied Sciences. These are universities which have a practical approach to masters. So you would or courses are not that important here. So it's like if you do an embedded systems masters, you will probably spend 90% of time working on real ARM or NVIDIA processors and not studying from books. So there's a different approach between University of Applied Sciences and the TUs. So the TU has a balanced on-hand and theory approach. So they are more geared towards basic research, while the University of Applied Sciences are more practical and they gear you more towards corporate and industry job. But University of Applied Sciences generally do not have a lot of courses in English, so they majorly have courses in German, and they are all over the country. So yes, right now, so you can right now we have a intern in our own department from the Applied Sciences University Leipzig. So they are also popular, but I guess coming from IIIT, probably the TUs would be more appropriate. Right, now coming to doctoral studies. So you can do PhD here in Germany in two ways. So there's an industrial PhD and there's a university PhD. So the industrial PhD is more common. It is way more funded. And so what happens is you do your work and write your thesis at a research institute, and you get your degree from the university. So that is why we have two affiliations. So I work at the German Aerospace Center. So every day I go there, I do my research there. I wrote my thesis there, but it doesn't have the degree granting capacity. So you have to find a professor in the university, and the professor has to agree to supervise you and sign off on your thesis. So that is why you will find most people having two affiliations here. And if you do an industrial PhD, you work in the industry itself. So you are aware of what's happening, what is the latest in the corporate world, what is the latest in research, in basic research, in applied research, and everything. In case of university PhD, it's much difficult, at least for engineering sciences. Getting funding for such PhDs is a bit difficult, and it's a regular university PhD. So you go to the university, you go to the department, and you work there. So an industry may or may not be a part of the project. It would depend completely on your funding. And both of these support graduate schools, which are essentially grooming and training schools. So they provide you with courses such as human behavior, ethics, how to publish. And so they do the grooming part, and they also provide international services for the international students, like how to go about choosing your supervisor, or how to deal with any problems that you have with your boss or something of that issue. So now graduate schools are very prevalent across the country here. Now, so industrial PhD, so you need to know about the research societies and institutes a bit. So these are the four examples. There are more for sure. The largest one is the Helmholtz Association, and it rides a very thin line between applied research and basic sciences. So as I already mentioned, Research Center Jülich, that's the biggest Helmholtz research center and probably one of the biggest in Germany itself. Amongst all the other research centers, they have the high performance computing centers. They have remote sensing centers and biological centers, physics and everything. So the Peter Grunberg Institute is also a part of this. And then you have the German Aerospace Center, which is responsible. So it's the counterpart of ISRO for India. So it controls, maintains, develops everything space related for Germany and represents Germany for ESA. And then you have Center for Geosciences, Cybersecurity. So I specifically included geosciences because you shouldn't be afraid of applying to places where it doesn't seem right. So ideally, if you have a computer science degree, you would think, why would I ever apply to a geoscience institute? But it's not like that. Apart from the earth sciences, geoscience requires instrumentation, data analysis, software maintenance, you need onboard processing. So all of these are essentially electrical engineering jobs. So you can apply for jobs as well as PhDs and postdocs in these multidisciplinary institutes as well. And then you have Max Planck Gesellschaft, or the Max Planck Society. This is probably the more famous one, and it does basic sciences. So, and it is more popular with computer science, like the Institute of Informatics, Intelligent Systems, Cybersecurity, Complex Systems in Magdeburg. One unique feature of Max Planck is that it has international research schools where you can directly apply for your PhDs. So I would ask you to check out the Impress website, and there they would have openings for PhDs for the respective institutes and what they require, right? And then coming to the engineering and application side, you have Fraunhofer. The Fraunhofer Society basically funds all engineering projects, engineering research, and market research for technologies. So you can see that, so you have the HHI Institute, which is based off communications, then you have the Integrated Systems in London, which is the birthplace of MP3 codecs. And for computer science, there's analysis and information systems in St. Augustine. And then you also have the Leibniz Association, which has a broader perspective. So like there are institutes for high frequency technique, and there are also social science institutes where I guess computational social science is a part of the research interest. And for funding, PhDs are always funded, and there is no tuition fee. And if you want to pay a semester fee, then you pay a semester fee. If you don't want, you don't pay it. So you don't use the facilities of the university. And it's divided into two. So you can either have a scholarship, which is a fixed value for 1,200 to 1,500 euros for all the 3 years. And health insurance is divided between you and your employers. So you can legal to not to have. Right, and if you have a salary, you get 50 to 100% of a full employment salary. So that would range from 1,300 to 2,200 euros. You pay taxes. So when you pay taxes, you get tax returns, and you have the entire scale of social benefits. So you see that Germany is, you would already know that it's a social democracy and it's a people-oriented system. So you do pay taxes, but you also get a very high quality of service from the government itself. Now, the process for doing applying for a PhD is you need a master's degree and maybe English proficiency. It depends. Sometimes they do not even require it if you have done your all studies in English. And then again, you go to the DRD website, or you go to the university websites for where they in the job portals where they have where they put their PhD application calls. So they would have that we require a PhD or a doctoral student or a research assistant for this job. One of the more important things is the DWIH. So DWIH is the German Wissenschaft, German Scientific Institute, and it is based in New Delhi. It's in Chanakyapuri. And there are a lot of German universities which are network partners of this particular organization. They hold events and career fairs where people from the German universities come and recruit. So you should check them out and follow them on whichever platform, Twitter, Facebook. So I know that our alumnus have benefited from these events, and they have got jobs and PhDs in Germany from these DWIH events. Or if you do not find something interesting, you can always write to a professor, and if they have a position, they will accept you. If they do not have, but they still find you interesting, you have to write for a funding application, and so that's another way to go about it. And there's always an interview. So even if you apply to a university or a professor, there will always be an interview, and you have to crack that interview. And if you're successful, you get the offer letter. And as I already mentioned, the PhD is 3 to 4 years. It's a maximum of 4 years. So you might ask what I'm doing since 2016. So I'm just waiting for my defense. So I've submitted my thesis. So I've completed my 4 years. And my official contract for PhD is over. And generally you have some kind of evaluation per year. So there is no compres or examinations that you have to qualify. You just need to present your work every year in front of your thesis committee, and they will tell you, okay, this is right, this is not right, or some changes that you might need to make. And then if you have some courses which you will get to know from the university, you do it, or otherwise it's fine. And you just have to satisfy the university professors with the quality of work, and then you just submit your thesis, wait for a difference, and then it's done. So a few general tips is that if you're doing an industrial doctorate, you should try and get the professor at the university at the earliest. It's a very time-consuming process. obviously your boss will help in this, so you're not responsible for doing this. Your advisor at the research institute is responsible for finding an advisor at the university. And also, if you're writing to the university or a professor, then please read their work. Do not send random emails; they will ignore it. So read about their work and try to present your work in a way in which shows that you can understand what they do and you can also improve and contribute to their work. So please spend your time in writing your SOPs, and every application needs to be a different SOP. You cannot reproduce them for each and every application. So take out your time, write your SOPs for tailor-made for every institution and every professor. And learn the language and keep in, because it will help you to integrate and makes your life way easy. In the university or in your offices, you might not have a problem because people would speak in English with you, but when you go out into the world in the city, so there you need the language. So it would be easier if you learn the language in the first, like slowly and steadily, you learn the language over your time here. And most importantly, PhD would be a training process. So it just tells you how to identify a problem and come up with a solution. So 99% of the PhDs are not going to be something that change the world. So you do not need to stress out. So keep an open mind, enjoy the experience, and be sincere with your work. So one quirk of doing PhDs in Germany that you get degree, funny sounding degrees. So if you're doing a Doctor of Engineering, you would get Dr. Ing. So you would be called Dr. Ing XYZ. And if you do it in natural sciences, including computer science, you would be called Dr. Renat. So that's essentially Doctor of Natural Sciences. So this is something which is peculiar to, I guess, Northern Europe. I guess France, Sweden, they have this kind of system. But yeah, it's one of the more nice things about doing your doctoral studies here. And opportunities after PhD, so you could become a part of a research lab, do a postdoc, and then become a junior group leader, senior group leader, an HOD, and institute head. Or once you become a junior group leader, you can go into the university where you have to show that you can do independent research and you can guide students. So this is called a habilitation, and it has to be done within, I guess, 8 years of your PhD. So this is on the research degree per se. So it's a postdoctoral degree which qualifies you to become a university professor. And so research employees, if you work in a research lab, it takes about 6 to 10 years to become permanent. But before that, you would get your permanent residency here in Germany. So that's not really a huge problem. But private companies generally provide you with permanent jobs. And I read your responses to the meeting, and I understand that there are some people who talked about non-tech jobs. So if you do not want to do technology, but you still want to be a part of this, so you can do science communications, you can be a project manager or a liaison officer for the universities. But these are administrative positions, but they also require a PhD. So you need to know your domain very well in order to apply for these jobs as well. So yeah, so that's again one of the ways in which you can progress here. Now a bit about living expenses. It's pretty affordable here. The PhD salary is generally comfortable to live in. So your residence would be about 300 to 600 euros. And if you're living in student housing, it can go as low as 250 euros, and 400 is like really high for a student housing. And if you live in a student housing, you have edu room there. So your essentially internet and phone bills are literally free. Food costs about 200 euro per month. And if you have a semester ticket, you do not require anything to travel generally. So if you use the high-speed trains, you do, but for local transport, no. And otherwise, it costs you about 90 to 100 euros. So a salary of 1200 plus anything is very comfortable. And for MS students, because your internships and master's thesis would generally be paid, the amount of payment would vary. So they also do manage comfortably in here without any troubles. Now, otherwise, life in Germany is really nice. So as I already mentioned, public transport is really affordable and you can travel anywhere you want in between states and cities very easy. And if you have a German visa or if you have if a visa for any EU country, you can travel to the rest of Europe without any visa hassles. And the by Flixbus or Deutsche Bahn, so I've traveled almost the entire most places I took the train, so I fly very rarely. And then there's Christmas. So Germany is known for its Christmas. So it starts in November, goes till end of December, and it's a really nice time. But there are also weird quirks in the German society. So if you try and download movies through VPN, it's sort of illegal and there are very heavy fines. But yeah, you get used to the quirks by living here. And in terms of the Indian community, you have Indian stores and Asian stores in most of the big cities and student towns. And you will, so essentially, you do not need to थैले भर के दाल और मसाले नहीं लाने पड़ेंगे. You get everything here. And there's a large Indian diaspora. So, like, this is a Facebook group which are Indian in Germany where you can post about any queries, and generally people do respond easily. So thank you, and I wish you all the best. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Just one thing that I am not really so a lot of invitations from LinkedIn, but I still prefer that you write to me. So you can always write to me, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Protim. So there are a couple of questions in chat box. Let me read for you. Setu has asked, although German is not required officially, but is it the case that instructors switch to German language and it might become a problem to students to understand?
So the question is that whether knowledge of German will affect your life here, right?
Yes.
Okay, German. Okay, so if the course is in English, the instructor cannot switch to German. So that's not possible. And if that happens, you can always go to the dean or the corresponding person. So it doesn't happen. So if the course is in English, it is always in English. So all your courses will be in English. Because like in IIIT-Delhi, you choose your courses. So with the courses, there's normally a language qualification that they write, that whether the course is in English or German or bilingual, so you would always know beforehand. So it should not be a problem.
Okay, and the Chavisha has asked, like, would knowing German hold any extra credit, extra weightage on the resume?
Not really. The main important thing is if you are doing your master's, then I guess the only thing important is your bachelor's degree and your projects. And if you're coming for a PhD, again, your projects and master thesis and your basic knowledge and problem solving abilities. These are the more important things. Language it is not a make or break thing with the language. So most institutes generally provide
and
an
there's a question from Yash.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can continue like you were saying.
I was just saying that most institutes, even for your masters, when you come for your masters, generally you have to come through DAD, and they give you classes for the first 6 months or year to learn German. So it's not a problem. So like really, until and unless it is required for some particular course or project you're applying for, it's not that big of a deal breaker. You can always come here and learn the language. You're given ample number of opportunities to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, and Yash has asked, the PhD structure is only for the Germany, or it's similar for the entire Europe?
PhD structure is similar for EU. So it is it is not specific to Germany per se. Uh, what I described was how the German system worked because the other university systems also work in a similar manner. The general idea is same that you look for a you go to the university website. Like for example, if you want to go to Netherlands or Denmark, so you go to TU Eindhoven's website, you look for a PhD job, and you apply to the job, and then whatever the requirements the university asks. Same as in Denmark or France, that you go to, let's say, Aus University's website, you get a PhD offer and you apply there directly. And if you want to write to a professor, you write to a professor who may or may not have a grant. Like I wrote to two professors who said that, okay, we are interested, but we do not have grants right now for us. And one of them asked me to write after 6 months. I wrote back, but still he didn't have any funds for my PhD. So this is very normal thing to happen. But this structure is more or less similar in all of EU. So the general guidelines are similar. And with EU, I mean, so the British system works a bit different. EU, I just mean continental Europe, and anyway, EU is so the British system has some other ways in which you can do a PhD there. So this is specifically for mainland Europe. So shall I read some? So one, I guess. So I guess.
Yeah. So Rohit is asking, is master a hard prerequisite for PhD, or there is an option for direct PhD to after BTech?
No, as Divya answered, so Divya is also one of our alumnus. She works at Research Center Ulish and is with Aachen. So you cannot do a PhD here without a master's degree. So you need a master's degree for your PhD. It's not possible. You have to have the system. In very rare
And there's a question from
circumstances.
Rupal.
Yes, Khalid.
Yeah, so Rupal has asked, like, is there a concept of 1 year MS in Europe, or how is it different from 2 year MS as in the US?
As far as I know, there is no concept of 1 year's MS in Europe. It's 4 semesters. You have to complete 4 semesters. Uh, it depends on how much time you take to complete them. You can take 2 years, you can take 3 years, but essentially 4 semesters. And how is it different from US? I don't know because I do not exactly know how the US system works. So here you come for your masters, you do your courses, you get your credits, you do your master thesis, and you're done. So, and if you want, you can take some semester breaks in between. So that's completely up to you. But in terms of education quality, I guess both are at par. But I would say, what in my experience, the people with whom I've interacted who have done masters in Europe, whether they are Indians or they are Europeans, it is an extremely specialized subject. So if someone is doing computer vision, like he would know in and out everything about computer vision and whatever the application, whatever they did master's thesis in. So once you come out of your MS, you are treated as an adult researcher. In that sense, it is a very complete or whole, well-rounded kind of a course. Mm, So, some other questions?
So there is one more question from Rupal. What is the selection criteria for these scholarship for MS and PhD fundings?
For MS funding, it is university dependent. You need to ask the university, so there is no specific. You can do some amount of TA jobs and stuff like that, but it would really depend upon the university, because there are some scholarships from DAAD, which you can apply directly from India, but they are not always available. So this you have to clear it out with the university you want to apply to, because you need to always show that you have 10,000 euros in your bank account, so you're actually covering for all your expenses beforehand. And you can always write to the university with your case that I have such funding problems, so can I be helped or something. So they will always reply to you, and it's generally positive. With respect to PhD programs are always funded. So when you go to a job portal and when there's an advertisement for a PhD program, it is always funded. And if you have to look for your own funding, then you have to go back to these Helmholtz, Max Planck, German research organization, DFG. So they have certain, they have calls for funding where you write your proposal, you submit, and if it gets selected, then you get your funding. But this only happens if very rarely. In most scenarios for PhDs, if there's a job application to which you apply, you have 4 years of money already fixed for you.
I think Rupal is trying to ask what should be the selection criteria. I mean, I think she's trying to. I think because for the US you send your grades and everything. So I think
Okay. In that sense, oh, okay. So that way you really do not have much of a criteria. You only need your masters and you need to know your domain very well. They only ask you questions about your so what projects you have done and what was your contribution to the project, what you learned, what if you failed or something. So marks are only like, so if you have, I guess if you have more than 7.5 GPA, it should be fine. And rest really depends upon the interview, and mostly in the interviews they ask you about your so there's no other sort of criteria that you need to tick.
Is it true for masters as well, or just PhD?
This is true for PhD. For masters, I guess I do not think there's an interview for masters, but what I understand is you even if there's an interview for masters for your case, the same thing applies. So for masters, maybe a higher GPA would make you feel more comfortable. Like if you, but there is no criteria that if you have like, the most important part here is they only check your problem solving capacity. That's the only thing that they check. So that's the more important part, which is of concern to at least Germans.
yeah, I mean, like they can solve questions or give you a set of questions and like ask you to come back with the solutions. So it's mostly dependent on the interview, but it's very subjective. It depends on your professor or the scientist. They can ask about your previous work, or they might also ask for grades or courses, but it's like very dependent on the professor. Yeah.
Yes, but as such, there are no criterias for like you do not have marks or some other criteria for selection.
And Angel has asked, after masters, is it easy to get visa in Germany?
So you have 6 months of job search visa, and once you get a job, then the company takes over your visa application. So you get 6 months of job search visa from the university itself, and generally people do find a job in that amount of time. And after that, if you go for a PhD, the research institute will take over your contract or if you go for a job in a company, the company takes over your contract. So it's not that difficult to get a visa, work visa. If you're already in Germany, definitely not.
Yes. So the next question is from Rupal. She's asking, what led you to pursue your research career in Germany instead of USA or Canada, like which usually is much more talked about among the kids? And what was your rationale behind this decision?
Okay, so this is a difficult question. Um, like it would depend on what you want. So I had the advantage that I had been exposed to the German system and the European system way back because my elder sister was here in Germany for and I knew that it is very application oriented, and it values your capacity as an individual to contribute to the society. So you're not judged by what you do as an individual, but how you work in part of the entire system. And Canada, but you have to give recognition to all the European universities, like starting from KTH in Stockholm to RWTH Aachen, DTU, Delft, Munich. All these universities are world-class universities. They are equivalent of Stanford, MIT, any other place. Their research is very good. So Amazon NLP, everything is done from Aachen. So that's like the research center in Aachen. NLP research happens there. And I work at DLR. So DLR is responsible for literally all space missions. There's definitely large DLR components. They have their systems going around Earth, providing firefighting facilities and everything. Then you have Fraunhofer, which they literally built the MP3 codec here, and right now a lot of the new H226, 264 and VCC, all of these are being developed in Germany. The heads and leads are in Germany itself. So people do not give enough credit to the European countries of what they've contributed. So when I got here, when I submitted my application in DLR here, I knew what I was getting into, and I myself always wanted to work in aerospace. So and I knew that I would have a good quality of education. So I knew the professors are going to be good. I knew the work is going to be good. So that was my thought process, that I knew my work and my quality of life is going to be good. So and so that were my two important things. What helped me make my decision.
Yes. So there's a question from Angel. She's asking, she has read masters in German is free or minimal course, but for masters in English you have to pay the full fee, which is generally a lot. So is that true or no? Not.
It No, in both the languages it is free. So it only depends, as I said, it's only in the state of Baden-Württemberg where they charge you the fees, and that's also 1,500 euros per semester. So that's like 1.3 lakh per semester, sort of somewhere about what I guess it's sort of the same as the IIIT fees, I would guess, or a bit more than that. So it is. So this is what the official website says. So even for masters in English, as I checked a few master courses while preparing the presentation, most of them did not have any tuition fee. So only the ones which are in the state of Baden-Württemberg where you have to pay a fee. And it's not, and if you have to pay a fee, they will tell you before you apply to them. So it's not, they are not going to like ask you for money after. And public universities are all funded by the government, so they come from the taxes that people pay. So they are actually not allowed to charge you tuition fee. So only for international students in some universities, you're required to pay the fee. So that's for international students. That's, I guess, even if you do a course in German, then also you have to pay. So any student who is not a European, so they have to pay the fee. So as far as I know, and as far as what is written in the official web pages, tuition is free, with subject to the exceptions, surely.
Yes. So there is a question from Diksha. She did MTech from IIIT-Delhi, and she wanted to know how to decide for the area for PhD after joining a company.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question very well. Area for PhD after joining a company. So, do you already work at a company, or you're? So, the area. I will give a general answer to this. Something unless Diksha would like to clarify.
Hey, Protim. I'm working in a company. My doubt is like currently I'm towards the system design parts and towards the verification area, and
Okay.
I VLSI masters. So I'm looking for the PhD opportunities. So how do I should start looking for the area? Like I do have the courses that I did in masters and have knowledge regarding that. But how to? So it's been 1 year I've been working in the company.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was trying to filter out the areas that I should try to look into PhD. So what the other things the universities look for the PhD candidates if they are coming from a like a company or not directly from masters.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter if you're directly joining after your master's or you're joining after working at a company. So there is no difference in terms of the what they would require of you. And as far as topics are concerned, you need to. So I can suggest this. So if you're in VLSI, then look for the top universities and top research organizations in Germany. So, for example, you have TU Munich, TU Dresden. These are more hardware-oriented universities. Maybe RWTH Aachen as well. So you look through what the university does in terms of research in your area of expertise. And if you find something interesting, you ask the professor directly. If they do not have any jobs right now available, you can you email the professor with your qualifications and let them know that you have worked in the industry and you excel in this XYZ stuff, and you are interested in their D project. So, and you would like to work, and if there are any opportunities available. So I guess that's the best way to go about it. So you need to sit down and read through the labs profiles, and if something interests you, or if you have some particular interest, you can directly search for those labs, and then if they have positions available, well and good. If they do not have a position available, then you can always ask them that if they are willing to disclose information about future funding, or maybe you can write a funding or some partnership. So yes, I guess that's the way you should go ahead.
Thanks.
Yes. So the next question is from Akhil. So he's asking what level of German is sufficient for daily conversation, and like where did you learn there?
Okay, I learned German here after coming here. So, and I'm still, I do understand a lot, but I still have problems speaking continuously for hours and hours. So I cannot still do scientific conversations in German. But I guess if you are a B1, it's sufficient for daily conversation. Yeah.
And the next question is from Neha. She's asking, when did you writing to professor for possible RA-ship PhD funding?
PhD funding. Okay, so I started looking for PhD in my third semester. So as I already mentioned, that I went to the portals and looked through the jobs which I found interesting. I applied for them, and I wanted to work with some professors myself. I went to their websites and I just shot them emails with my background and what I would like to do with them, like how I would like to work in the lab. Uh, I would say 80 to 85% of the times they do reply to you, whether yes or no, or they would say that we might find something, some funding or something. So, if you are thinking of doing a PhD, I guess you should start from the third semester because it generally takes 1 year to find something in which you are happy, the other party is happy, and to sort out all visa and every other problems which may arise. So, I guess third semester of your masters is a good time to start looking for PhDs.
Actually, my question is more about, say, I want to apply for masters in Germany, and
Mm.
so when is a good time? Like, if the deadline is in December, so do you write to professors seeking any funding opportunities or anything before the application or after you get admitted?
So if you are applying to a job offer, like if you're applying to an advertisement, then you do not need to write to the professor for funding because if there's a job offer, the funding is already a part of it. So you just apply for that job or apply for the PhD position, and if you get shortlisted from the lab or the university, then they will send you an email. They will fix an interview for you. So in this case, you do not need to write to anyone with respect to funding. So all the funding information will be there along with the PhD advertisement. So, and if you find that there is no information available with respect to that, you can then write to the concerned person and ask them before you apply.
Okay, and just want to confirm something. So TAT doesn't have India in eligible nationality. Is it correct, or is it true or not?
I'm sorry, but I don't understand what it means by eligible nationality. There are people with DAD fellowships and there are master students with DAD internships from the various institutes in our country. So I'm not sure what you mean by eligible nationality. If Yash is there, maybe if he wants to clarify.
I think Yash is not here. He has left the meeting. Uh, so there's one more question from Akhil. In bilingual programs, are exam conducted in German?
Okay. I guess you can write, there's a choice of writing your exams in German or in English. So if it's a bilingual program, then there's always the option. And so, as I already mentioned, you would already know in which language the course is going to take place, and the examination will also have the same language. So the examination will be conducted in the same language.
One question I had was how is the masters in Germany different from like pursuing master in some Scandinavian country like Norway or Sweden? Is there any notable difference?
I would guess not. Most of the European education systems are at par with each other. So, apart from regulations specific to the countries, the quality and the duration of the exam of the masters should be the same. Because in
Sure,
your
'cause,
masters,
like, Norway
if
is not
you're
part
if
of
you're doing
the
masters in
European Union,
Germany,
so
you can go to.
yeah. So Norway is not part
Sorry.
of the European Union. So is the funding also like the similar like uh, the the blocked account rule and all?
Yeah, that's what I said. Maybe these rules with respect to how you give proof of your living expenses may be different. So those kind of specifics may vary from country to country. And Norway is only not part of it's not it's just not part of the economic bloc. I mean, it's part of the economic bloc. They just don't look at it in a way of which regulations the countries agree to or not. But the rules specific to how you provide proof of your sustenance may differ from country to country, but the general idea would be the same.
Okay, thank you.
So, is there any other query students you have? You may unmute yourself, or you can write in chat box. So I think there are no more queries.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Protim and Divya, for being here. If you would like to add up something before we end.
Divya, would you like to say something? Or?
No, I think you covered everything pretty well. Most of the things that I struggled with while finding my PhD, and everything is there in your presentation. And I would also suggest that, which was very helpful for me, one thing, you have the representative offices of most of the universities and most of the research centers and universities in DWIH Chanakipuri, New Delhi. So if you have any queries or something, you can actually go and talk to the people there. It was very helpful for me, like for my visa process, for lots of other things. I would just drop in the research center office there and they would answer all my queries. So, I mean, you can check online if the place you're applying to, if their office is there in New Delhi, you can easily go and talk to them. It would be very helpful. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. That's one advantage of being in Delhi, that all offices are there. And yeah, I guess I from my side, I do not have anything else to add. And thank you, Khalid, and thank you, Pallavi, for inviting me. And thank you, Divya, for joining in.
Thanks, Protim. Thanks, Divya, for joining and
All the
taking
best to all
giving
the
so much
students
insight.
with the future. No, it's not a problem at all. It's always
Yeah,
good to give back to your alma mater.
that's very
So,
nice. So we hope to see you soon. And will you be able to share your slides so we can forward these to the students if they have any doubts?
yes, I'll email them to Khalid, and then I guess you can share
No
it further.
problem. Yeah, yeah, no problem. That will be great. So thanks, Divya. Thanks,
Yeah.
Protim.
Okay.
And take care. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You too. Take care and stay safe, stay healthy.
Okay, bye bye.
Yes. Thank you, Protim, Divya. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks, Khalid. Bye bye. Take care.